So it's that Icast time of year again, but as most of you probably know, due to the pandemic, the Icast convention itself was canceled and changed to online only. Now, for the most part, I think this year's online Icast was pretty underwhelming versus the previous years, but I think that's probably due to the pandemic causing a delay in a lot of the planned releases. And I'm sure there were a lot of products that were probably postponed due to the worldwide lockdowns that might be released later. Now, in either event, there were still some interesting new tackle that I saw, and I'm going to go over all the freshwater releases I found interesting based on the Tackle Warehouse Icast products page. And of course, we're going to start out with the brand that everyone is wanting to know about first, and that's Shimano. Now, the big reel release for Shimano at this year's Icast is a spinning reel with a really strange name, the new Vanford. Now, this reel is replacing the very popular selling STRADIC Ci4 Plus, so the Vanford definitely has some really big shoes to fill, performance wise and sales wise. Now, this reel goes back to the second generation STRADIC Ci4's red and black color scheme. Now, it's not quite as good looking a reel as the current STRADIC that it's replacing, but I do like it. Now, the big focus on this Vanford reel is what they call quick response, which is something that has been going on in Japan with their spinning reels for quite a few years now. Basically, the Vanford is supposed to have a super light MGL rotor that's supposed to have 48% less rotational mass versus a traditional rotor. So that means that there's going to be less response time and effort when you start turning the handle to when the rotor starts to move and spin. They also trickled down some technology from some of their top of the line reels, like the long stroke spool, the micro module 2 gears, and the silent drive. Now, the weight has also went down slightly from the STRADIC Ci4 Plus. Now, the price of the Vanford increases by $10 over the STRADIC, so it starts out now at $240 for the smaller models. Now, will this reel be as good a seller for Shimano as the STRADIC? I guess only time will tell. But I do know that people may not realize this Vanford is the replacement for the STRADIC because of its weird name. Okay, so on to the baitcast reels, and we're going to start with the long-awaited update to the smallest Curado, and that would be the 70. Now, just like the ALDEBARAN and the METANIUM before it, this is a mid-cycle refresh and an update of the existing platform instead of an all-new, brand-new reel. Now, this new model is called the Curado MGL 70K. Now, as you can see by the very limited pictures of this reel, they went with the same color scheme as the Curado 200K, kind of a matte black with green accents. But if you think all they did was change the color, then you'd be wrong. Now, Shimano actually did two things to the new Curado MGL 70 that would seem to conflict with each other, and that is to increase its already impressive finesse capabilities, but at the same time beefed it up to increase its power fishing capabilities. Now, to increase its finesse abilities, they gave it a new MGL spool, which has surely lost weight over the old spool, but the spool weight is unknown, but I predict at least a 1 gram weight loss and possibly even more. Now, to increase its power capabilities, they replaced the finesse-oriented handle and knobs of the old model with a larger, thicker handle and beefier knobs to allow you to transfer more power. Now, they also changed the gears to the brass micro module gears and beefed up the drag with the cross carbon washer that bumps up the stopping power to 12 pounds. Now, yes, I know this is still really low by today's standards, but you can bet it will be super smooth, which is what Shimano concentrates on. Now, the weight on this reel went up by almost half an ounce over the old model to almost 7 ounces. So that makes me wonder if they gave this new MGL 70 an aluminum handle side plate. Now, I made a video a couple of years ago on a subscriber reel, the JDM Shimano Engetsu 100. Now, that reel uses the exact same frame but had brass micro gears and had an aluminum handle side plate. So basically, Shimano already had most of the parts available already to make this updated Curado MGL 70. Now for the bad part, and I really only see two. Now, the first thing is that they jumped the price up, and I'm not talking $5 or $10, I'm talking $30. So yes, the price for this reel is going to be $230, and that makes no sense to me, since the only thing they really had to develop was the MGL spool. Now, either way, I'm getting one as soon as they come out. But now we're going to talk about the second bad part for this reel, and that is going to be the next reel I'm going to talk about. Shimano has added yet another reel to the very popular SLX lineup, the SLX MGL 70. Now, Shimano is really milking the success of their SLX lineup with the addition of the finesse-oriented SLX MGL. Now, a lot of you may know the SLX MGL was released in Japan a couple of years ago as a JDM only model, and I actually bought one as soon as it came out. Now, this USDM version looks to be the same, with a couple of key changes that make it more suitable for the American market. Now, they ditched the finesse-oriented handle of the JDM model and gave it a more standard size handle, and they also gave it the really nice new flat knobs that came out with the new METANIUM. And these incidentally are the same knobs that come on the new Curado MGL 70. They also upgraded the drag to the cross carbon washer that has the same 12 pounds of stopping power as the Curado MGL 70. Now, the spool looks to be the same as the JDM version, so that means it will come in at a very light 13.2 grams and have the blue accents on the porting there. Now, I would not be surprised if the Curado MGL 70 spool is going to be heavier. So why is this bad news for the new Curado MGL 70? That's because this SLX MGL 70 is going to be only $149. So that's a whole $80 cheaper than that Curado MGL. In fact, you won't even save any money by purchasing one from Japan. So you can now get an SLX MGL with a Shimano North America warranty for about the same price as importing one from Japan. Now, this is a strange move from Shimano, as I'm sure people will compare these two models and see that the only obvious difference is going to be the gears. Now, either way, since I already have an SLX MGL, this only saves me money, and I only have to get the new Curado. So on the rod side of things, we're going to start out with the new Zodius line. Now, the big change for the Zodius rods is pretty obvious, and as you can see, that change is switching over to the carbon monocoque handle. Now, as you can also see, it's only on the lower butt end and not the full handle like with the Poison Adrena line. Now, according to Shimano Japan, the sensitivity has gone up a whopping 130% versus the conventional model. Now, if they're talking about the previous Zodius or just another conventional rod, I don't know. Now, I do know that I have two of the old Zodius rods, and while they are sensitive enough, they lack that lively feel of rods like the NRX and X Pride. Now, hopefully these new rods will change that. Now, there's no mention of a change in blank though, so it's going to have the same high power X carbon tape cross wrapping. The guides will be semi-micro with alkanite inserts, with the rod tip insert being SIC. But one thing that's new is that the model information will be printed on the monocoque handle, which will be convenient if you plan on buying several of these rods. Now the lengths and tapers will be similar to the old models, but they did add one model that I'm very interested in, and that's the 7'2" medium light with an extra fast tip. I'm also interested in that 7'5" heavy. Now, not surprisingly, there was also a small increase in price of $10, so now they're going to start out at $200. Now, the old Zodius rod line was actually pretty popular, and this new Zodius rod line should make it even more popular. Now, as far as the rest of the freshwater rod releases of note, Shimano came out with a brand new Claris rod. Now, as you can see, the new Claris line gets a radical new look with its dark green coloring and split grips. This is about the opposite of the old Claris that had a more traditional look with the old school full cork handle. The new Claris rods will feature a new reel seat that looks like it could be ergonomically comfortable or very uncomfortable depending on how you palm. Shimano also gave it the textured G Alpha grips that are featured on the much more expensive Intenza rods. Now, these are general purpose rods with no specialized models, so we are looking at all purpose fast tapers for the entire lineup. And one more thing to note is that 3 sizes will actually come in 2-piece models. Now, the only other rod I'm going to mention from Shimano is that the popular selling SLX rod line gets a range of glass rods for crankbaits. Now, on the G Loomis side, there was a rumor of a new NRX line coming. If that's true, they apparently aren't ready yet, because the only thing new from G Loomis at Icast is a new IMX line. Well, that's it for what I found interesting for Shimano at Icast this year. I'm not sure if they had more planned to release, but that might have been impacted by COVID or not. But all in all, some solid new offerings from Shimano.